All right, I'm here today, guys, with Collin Martin, American professional soccer player who plays as a midfielder for the San Diego Loyal in the USL. On June 29th, 2018, Collin came out as publicly gay. At the time, he was reported to be the only active male professional openly gay player. So we're really happy for Collin to be here today. Not only do I and the rest of the LRT sports staff really appreciate it, but I know that all the young athletes who watch this interview will really appreciate it as well. So thank you, Collin, for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Yeah, pleasure.
Of course. So basically, like I said, I'll ask you a big kind of couple, like 5-part question, and then the floor is yours. You just take it however you really want. But basically,
Cool.
just tell me your story a little bit, when you came out, how your parents and friends reacted. Were they supportive? How was Minnesota United as a whole when you came out at that Minnesota United game? What was the response from the whole league, the MLS? Along the way, were there any offensive comments from teammates or the opposing teams? Just all that stuff.
Okay. All right. Well, so I'll start kind of like a little story about my career and how I got to that point coming out.
For sure.
So I played in the MLS for the past 7 years. Now I'm in the USL this year in San Diego. But I did my first 4 seasons in DC, surrounded by my family and friends, and it was super ideal. But when I got traded to Minnesota, I kind of used that like fresh new start as a chance for me to be completely authentic and basically slowly start to tell my teammates that I was gay.
Hmm.
I wasn't ready to do something public yet, but I wanted to do something at a smaller level just by telling my teammates and maybe like administrators on the team, because in DC I was like I was living this lie that I couldn't stand upholding that anymore. So I slowly told my teammates. And so when I made that public statement, I had already for about a year been like out to all my teammates.
Hmm.
And so fortunately, like a lot of people were wondering like, oh, how'd your teammates react? How has the team supported you? I had been supported like ever since I got to Minnesota. My teammates have been awesome. The team had been amazing. The administrators have been amazing. And there was never like a moment where I had to sit down and tell everybody on the team. It
Hmm.
was sort of like very natural. So like during preseason, my first year, I was with a couple of the guys at dinner and just told them. It was hard telling them, and like it took some time to kind of get used to that.
Hmm.
But slowly, what you'll see is if there's I wouldn't say gossip, but if there's anything that goes around the team, like the whole team starts to know, and that's normal. And so I knew I never had to make a whole announcement, but basically I'd been kind of out to the team for about a year, and then when I came out for Pride Night uh, back in, I think that was what, 2 years ago now.
Hmm.
Um, I was doing this thing called Playing for Pride. And so Playing for Pride was actually started by one of my uh, former friends at Wake Forest in college. And so it brings together all these athletes and female athletes as well in the different soccer leagues. And they were basically going to support gay athletes, but gay rights in general during Pride Month. And they actually pledged their own money. And basically, I had a reporter ask me, "Hey, why are you supporting this? Like, what does it mean to you?"
Yeah.
And I gave her some generic answer, and I felt so bad because I wish I could have been able to like tell her, this actually means the world to me to have my straight teammates and straight friends support me and support this.
Right.
And so eventually, that gave me the courage to actually come out. And so uh, ever since I came out, it's been crazy. But the league has been super supportive. My team obviously has been great, and um, I've had very little since actually it was harder for me as a younger kid
Hmm.
in like locker room spaces, like hearing some bad certain language that was tougher. But ever since I became a pro, honestly, it was like it was kind of easier for me, and I've always been pretty supported. So that's kind of a little bit of the story. And
Oh,
now I'm in San Diego for my first season here, and the team's great. And I a lot of them knew because of my public posts 2 years ago. So it's like same thing. I never had to. Now that I'm actually like kind of like a public figure in that regard, I haven't had to come out to them as a team, but slowly, like each individual, as I've been comfortable, I've been coming out to them.
that's awesome. Yeah, that's a great story. You covered everything well, but yeah, I'm happy for you. That's good to hear. I understand what you say about how like it's harder when you're younger, just because kids are just less mature and the conversations that go on aren't as ideal. So that's good that at this point, you know, you can kind of.
Exactly. I mean, like that's kind of like exactly what it is. Like when you're around men in like a professional setting, like no one really like no one. It's not appropriate to talk about like people's sex life like that. Like, well, like, and don't get me wrong. Of course, like guys are asking like, oh, who you dating? Like, how's that going? Like, whatever. But it's just a lot more respectful knowing that we're kind of men. Whereas when we're kids, there's a lot more kind of words and immaturity that kind of gets thrown out there. And I was able to hear those words and not take it all to heart. But of course, like for any youth, those words do matter. And I think that's important to kind of to understand. And I think maybe your generation and the generations that are coming up now, I think have understand that more than ever. And I think that kids growing up now have it hopefully a little bit easier. So
yeah, for sure. That's great. So just kind of follow up to all that. You already touched on it a little bit, but you said, I just want to know, like, can you talk about the biggest struggle that you had to deal with as far as being a gay athlete? I mean, you kind of touched on it a little,
yeah.
but if there was anything else.
Yeah, I just say being in the closet in general. My first couple seasons in DC was really tough. Basically, like when you wish you could be like ideally an athlete just focuses on their sport 100% and that's all they have to worry about. But for me, I had a lot of things I was trying to process, and I was growing a lot outside of the sport, and so I wasn't afforded a lot of that growth during high school and during college that normal straight athletes get. And so I'd say I won't go into like crazy details, but I'm just saying like yeah, my energy and my effort like outside of the sport, like I had to worry about things that like people necessarily wouldn't. And yeah, and then living in fear like that I would be outed when I wasn't ready, or that stuff was very real. And so I'd say that those things were more of a struggle. And yeah, coming to peace with my sexuality and being able to tell my friends and family, and then ultimately my teammates, and ultimately knowing that other people's opinions of me that didn't know me weren't going to affect me. Like that took me a while to get to that point. Last little thing I'll tell you is that like I always thought, oh, I'm going to have an amazing season. I'm going to score 15 goals. I'm going to have a breakout year, and then I'm going to come out. But that never happened. Like it just I never had like a breakout season like that, and I realized it was unfair because I always wanted that like stability. But like and like to basically be like, oh, if I come out, like nothing's be a problem because I'm like one of the best players in the league or whatever. That just never happened. But I think that's kind of how a lot of people, maybe gay athletes, feel, is like they don't want to be compromised and have the sport taken away from them for any reason. So
yeah, for sure. No, I see what you're saying. Just because, especially in a professional setting, it's hard to give your all and have 100% concentration on the sport of soccer when there's other things that like genuinely affect you outside of the field. So
for sure.
That's just one of the biggest things, like trying to give your all, because that is your job to play soccer, but also like that's who you are. So it's hard to balance those.
Yeah.
But what you said about like other gay athletes, like having that strength and don't really want their sport to be compromised, goes right into my last question, actually. So my last one is, what advice can you give to athletes who are gay but don't have the strength to come out in fear that it would ruin their athletic career, whether that be like at the youth level, college level, or professional level?
Yeah. That's a tough one. Yeah, I mean, at the youth level, like it's really sad to hear kids that feel like they can't play their sport because of their sexuality and they feel like it's just not for them. So on like a very simple level, I just want to let them know that like sport is very much a thing for everybody, and your sexuality has nothing to do with your ability to participate in sport. That's on a lower level. But in the professional ranks, I would just say it feels so much better to accept yourself and to be comfortable with yourself, and to be able to be at peace with that, so that you then can focus on your professional side. There's no way you're going to be able to perform at your best if you're struggling in other aspects. And we see that, like you said, in other ways. Like, for example, Kevin Love. he really struggled with anxiety at certain points in the past couple seasons, and I'm sure throughout his whole career, and that would actually affect his play. And until he addressed that, until he found out ways to actually cope with that, he was never going to be able to get back to the standards that he maybe held himself for.
Right.
And so I'd say if you can, and if you are supported by your family and friends, and hopefully take those next steps to tell your agent, to tell your teammates, or to tell the people in sport that matter to you, because there's more to life than sport, and to enjoy your sport you play, you have to be enjoying your life outside of it too. So
Right. No, that was a great answer. And honestly, that's all I have today, but really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and do this. Like I said earlier, not only do I and the rest of the LRT sports staff really appreciate it, but I'm sure that there's tons of athletes out there who might be struggling and who watch this and get super inspired. So it means a
awesome.
lot from all of us. So I just want to say thank you and have a good one for sure.
Yeah, no, thanks for thinking about me, and for amplifying my voice, and yeah, if I can help one or two people out there that are watching this, that's why we do it. So
Exactly.
thanks for reaching out.
Yep. Thank you. Have a good one.
All right, you too. Enjoy your weekend.
You too. Bye.
Peace.